Picture this.
Hmm.
Your team's projected score and your opponent's projected score is neck and neck. Your opponent has Devontae Smith, Chris Olave, Michael Pittman Jr., and Justin Herbert. Devontae scored 33 points. Chris Olave scored 27 points. Michael Pittman scored 21, and Justin Herbert scored 34. That's less than half of my opponent's team, and they scored 115 combined. Now, you're probably hearing this thinking that I should have gotten blown out. But here's the kicker, no pun intended. Welcome to Fantasy Fumbles. I am your host, Johnny Barrow, and with me as my guest is Micah Bailey, and we're here to have some fun. If this is your first time watching, welcome. What we do here is we share fantasy fail stories from us and from other people, and we want to extend this show into the off season. So if you have a story, you can use the info down on the description and we will feature that on the show. We want to get as much content rolling as possible, and we just love having fun with each other. We love having fun. So that's what we're here to do. And Micah, you ready?
I'm ready as ever. So let's get it.
You're ready. Okay. So I'm just going to start off with a story between me and Micah. We played each other in fantasy recently.
Yeah, we
So
did.
going into Bears versus Commanders on Monday night, I was up 120 to 118. I still had Debo Samuel to go, while Micah still had Roma Dunze and Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt left to play. To say it was ugly for both of us would be an understatement. Neither player topped 6 points. It
Nope.
was Debo's second worst performance by decimals. It was Adunze's worst performance of the season, and it was Merritt's second worst performance. Merritt had almost two fumbles. Debo was targeted for a touchdown early in the first quarter, but that pass was picked off. And Adunze caught a sweet touchdown that was called back due to a ticky-tack illegal formation penalty. The final result of this ugly matchup, 129 to 126, Micah, aka Superman sucked.
Yeah, Superman did suck. But yeah, no, this was a ugly week, man. Because I was like, I got two players, you got one. I'm like, this could actually be a good game, Washington, Chicago. Remember the game from last year? You had the random Hail Mary to save the game, and then we're just sitting there watching this game, like, is anything gonna happen? Anything?
No.
Anyone gonna do anything? It was the ugliest game.
I
But
mean, stuff happened. It just wasn't our players that did
no,
any damage,
yeah.
unfortunately.
Well,
The
Krosky Merritt
Bears.
probably did damage to me, but it didn't affect anything.
Krosky Merritt did damage to
He
you.
did damage to me. It just didn't affect anything. But
He almost did additional damage, and it would have been, I think, a 1-point game if he
yeah.
fumbled that.
Uh,
But I mean, Jaden still had possession of the ball, so the fumble was credited towards him. And
oh.
yeah, that was a very interesting game because DJ Moore actually remembered to become Chicago's number one receiver. Not really sure who I blame there. I don't know if I blame him, Caleb, or Ben Johnson. Not really sure. Man, that Adunze touchdown, that was brutal. Because I saw
Yep.
that in real time. I'm like, dang it, I just lost. And then the flag, I'm like, oh, you mean to tell me I'm still in? Like, what?
Oh.
And and Jaden, I don't know what was going on. He just kept throwing to Luke McCaffrey and Chris Moore. I'm like, who are these guys? That's not Debo. And
Mhm.
obviously, Terry McLaurin's been out for a minute. So, I mean, he hasn't really had much options as far as elite wide receivers go. I mean,
Mhm.
Debo's the closest thing to that, in my
Yep.
opinion. He is the number one option, and he just couldn't get anything going. Didn't
Yep.
even do much damage this past week. So,
Yep.
little frustrating for your boy. This is probably my worst start to fantasy across 3 leagues at this point in the season. So my record in our league is 3-4, and that's the best record that I have right now. In the other 2 leagues I'm in, I'm 2-5. So,
Yep.
so Micah, speaking of our league, I I had to make an executive decision because I'm the commissioner of our league, right?
Right.
Yes. And so
Mm-hmm.
you know that our good friend George, who is in our
Mm.
league,
Mm-hmm.
he took the loss to me a little personally, and we are going to share that story later on in the pod. But
Yep.
without going into too much detail, he was not a fan, and he was so mad that he ended up deleting the fantasy app, and he claimed that he wasn't going to set his lineup the rest of the
You're
season.
kidding.
He said that. And
Oh
this is
my
not the first
God.
time this has happened, by the way. We're
No.
3 years into this league, and he always, around this point, he just gives up on his team. And I mean, they'll get a few wins here or there, but I mean, they'll probably like end up on the outside looking in as far as the
Mm-hmm.
playoffs goes. And I looked at his matchup and I'm like, I wouldn't have messed around with him like if he was playing anybody else, but it turned into business, man, because this week he is going up against our friend Christian, who at the moment is not
Mm.
only 10th, who is not only in last place, this man has yet to win a game.
Winless streak.
He is in the rough 2% of fantasy managers who have yet to win a game this season. And I
Yeah.
was looking at his lineup and I said, if you think that I'm going to allow Christian's first win to be against George, who has Jaden Daniels still in his lineup, who's not playing, and Nico Collins, who suffered a concussion, who's not
Mm-hmm.
playing, you're kidding yourself. So I talked to him yesterday and I actually convinced him. I'm like, can you set your lineup for this week? Because honestly, if there is a possibility that the man who made the Super Bowl last year with you goes winless the next season, I would love to see that come to fruition. And so he re-downloaded the app and he wouldn't set his lineup. I told him what he needed to do because it was very simple. I'm like, you
Yeah.
have Justin Herbert, just replace him. He's playing
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow night, like it's tonight now. And you have I can't remember the receiver off the top of my head, but you have this receiver replace Nico Collins with him. And so I told him to do that and he said, yeah, I don't really have the strength to do that. I'll let you do that.
What
And
the
so
heck?
I I had to step in and set my lineup for my boy. I don't know how it's going to be the rest of the year, but I had to do that because I can't allow there to be one win in the column for our boy Christian because if there's a
No,
possibility
there's a
that he gets
possibility. Yep.
zero at this point I think we can all place bets and rest easy at night knowing he's going to finish last.
Mm-hmm.
But I really want to see him finish with 0 wins. Do you know how
Oh.
funny that would be? That would
Oh.
be the worst, the biggest Super Bowl hangover you've ever heard of.
Yep. And as someone who was
Like that.
in said fantasy Super Bowl with him, that would just give me the biggest joy in life. I'm like, I don't even have to win this year. Like, I could go to the playoffs and lose first round, but knowing that he is winless in the bottom of the league, that is hilarious. I'm like, you gotta go for that. I was like,
Exactly. This next story is from me. This is probably one of my all time best fantasy fumble stories. And I am not the one who fumbled in this instance. So here we go. Twas the night of Christmas. The eventual number one seed Ravens took a business trip to face the eventual one seeded Niners. For those who don't remember, the Ravens bullied the Niners so bad
Mhm.
they forced Brock Purdy to have his worst game of the season with 4 interceptions. And you could argue, still to this day, probably the worst performance of his career. Now, at this point, I stopped paying attention to my league in Yahoo. I probably stopped paying attention like 1 or 2 weeks before this game took place because I was below 500 at this point, and this was like week 16. I got a text from my friend that he needed me to beat someone next week. And this was my friend. Well, I'll get there in a minute. And I'm like confused. I'm like, what does that mean? What I didn't realize is in our 8-team league, 6 teams make the playoffs. So before he texted me, I had no idea that I had made the playoffs. I beat him by 5 points. And who was his quarterback? Mr. Irrelevant himself. What turned out to be a Christmas nightmare for him turned into a Christmas miracle for your boy. And the rest of the story goes, I won fantasy that year and I got my money.
Yeah, there you go. So get your payout.
I got two straight W's after that. I honestly couldn't believe I won that year. It was a quite a run. I mean, think about the greatest runs in playoff history. It was like the Giants in 2007. That's what it felt like. I mean, all the odds were stacked against me. I was like, what? I was probably the last seed in that playoffs, and somehow I landed on top. Yep. It's like I said, cream rises to the top eventually. So.
Johnny's own personal Eli Manning story.
I'd imagine that lost a lot of managers their matchup that week. I mean, you're sitting by the fireside, opening presents, you're with family, eating dinner, and then all of a sudden you look at your phone and you're getting blown out in fantasy because Brock Purdy decided to crap out on Christmas night. Not the best feeling in the world.
No.
I think he also had, if I'm not mistaken, I think my opponent in Yahoo also had George Kittle. George Kittle obviously did nothing because Brock Purdy did nothing. So I think he had, I think he had like 2 big plays, but that was it. I don't think he did anything after that. So
dang.
Yeah, I ended up winning by 5. That was a close one.
There you go.
Moving on to the next story. This is the story that you've been waiting for, where I went up against our good old buddy George. So, picture this. Your team's projected score and your opponent's projected score is neck and neck. Your opponent has Devontae Smith, Chris Olave, Michael Pittman Jr., and Justin Herbert. Devontae scored 33 points. Chris Olave scored 27 points. Michael Pittman scored 21, and Justin Herbert scored 34. That's less than half of my opponent's team, and they scored 115 combined. Now, you're probably hearing this thinking that I should have gotten blown out. But here's the kicker. No pun intended. None of these guys actually started on my opponent's team, and none of his players that started for his team had 21 like Pittman. He also had Jaden Daniels on his team, who went out in the third quarter. His highest scoring player was the Patriots defense with 20, and I ended up winning 134 to 116. His 2 receivers plus his flex were Justin Jefferson, DK Metcalf, and Nico Collins. All of their points combined didn't match Devontae's. And absolutely. I mean, George has had problems setting his lineup, leaving a lot of points on the bench. He had DK Metcalf a few weeks ago in that London game. He had the 75, 80-yard touchdown and got 30 points. And then this past week, he got 8. He did absolutely nothing against Cincinnati's porous defense. So it's nothing goes right for him, no matter what he does.
I was Metcalf was on his bench that game too. He runs on his bench.
I mean, nothing goes right. I mean, to be fair, who would DK, Michael Pittman, Chris Olave, I get those. I saw a post the other day. It was not DK Metcalf, excuse me. Devontae Smith is the worst fantasy football player to have because he's on your bench and he plays like a Hall of Famer, but he starts for you and he does nothing. Absolutely nothing. He's you know who he's like?
Tyler Lockett. Sutton. Oh, yeah, there you go. I was
Cortland Sutton too.
Cortland Sutton is my personal Vietnam in fantasy.
I was about to say, Micah has some beef with Cortland Sutton.
I do. I really.
And Cortland Sutton doesn't even.
I'm aware of him, but he's not
who
aware
is
of
this
me.
Guy?
a one-sided beat.
And see, I mentioned those lineup mistakes by George, but what I didn't tell you is I had Bo Nix on the bench. So I mean, you just switched Jared Goff
Yep.
and Bo Nix. Bo Nix had the best game in fantasy this year, as far as any quarterback is concerned. Obviously, it was a career game for him. He had like 40 points. Like, I mean, all it took was that happening, and I would have beat him no matter what, probably. So there was no way that he was going to start 3 out of 4 of those guys on the bench on his actual team, because it's like Justin Jefferson, DK Metcalf, and Nico Collins. Like, those are all 3 legit number 1 receivers. I mean, it's hard not to justify that. So fantasy football's funny like that, man.
Very fickle.
This one is from our buddy Christian.
Ooh.
Going into Monday Night Football on week 6, I had a great, by the way, I didn't even mention it in case you didn't remember. This is our friend Christian, who is winless still to this day.
Is he talking about this week 6?
Not this past week, but the week before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was about to say, this boy did not have a great chance. What's he talking about?
No, I went back in the archives for this one. Not too far back in the archives, though. Yeah. So, which, fun fact, by the way, before I jump back into the story, we're running a poll right now, and let us know down in the comments who you think is more likely to get their first win of the season. Is it going to be our friend Christian, or is it going to be the New York Jets? Something's got to give this week. Something. I mean, the Jets are playing Joe Flacco. Like, they're going to get their first win, right?
If the Jets start Tyrod Taylor, I'm actually going to pick the Jets to win that game. I'm like, I will do it. Just out of spite. I will do it.
Oh man, they actually have a chance. Bengals will be like, "Oh no, Tyrod." But yes, this is from our buddy Christian. Going into Monday Night Football on week 6, I had a great chance of winning fantasy, despite having not won a matchup the first 5 weeks of the season. I was going up against and actually had. Excuse me, that's a typo. I was going up against the number 1 team in our league. His last remaining player going into Monday night was Bijan Robinson, who played against Buffalo. His projected score was 21, and his final score, 36. I ended up losing by 6. That is brutal.
Yep.
And, that's kind of the story of this NFL season, is anybody can lose to anybody at any given time. I mean, I was thinking about that today, The Giants somehow in 4 days' time lost to the Saints, who everybody expected was going to have the number 1 pick. They still could have the number 1 pick in next year's draft. And then a few days later, they beat the Eagles, who are the defending Super Bowl champions. You got to love the NFL.
Yeah.
Parody is it is a league of parody. That's what I'll say about that.
That it is.
All right. And then, Micah, we have one more story here. This is from our friend Jake, who is not in Florida with us, sadly, but hopefully he'll make his way back here one day. Going into Monday Night Football on week 7, I had a really good chance of winning fantasy and was so confident in myself that I decided to leave Puka Nacua, who was listed as out, going into their matchup against the Jags, and Matt Prater, who was on a bye. I was up 142 to 125. His only player left was Jahmyr Gibbs, who was going up against a decent run defense in Tampa. Now, with 7 minutes left to go in the second quarter, Jahmyr Gibbs found an open hole, broke free for a 78-yard run, and had his first 200-yard performance of his career. I lost 162 to 142. Safe to say, I was a little too full of myself.
Yep.
I mean, do you fault him for that?
I do, actually, yes.
You do.
I was like, wasn't this the week 2 where Freiermuth had like 30-something on his bench, and so did Rodgers?
Oh, I didn't even mention that.
I'm like, he could have slotted him in. I'm like, win by default. But no, he's like, oh, I got this. It's okay. Oh,
Let me pull up the
yeah.
scoreboard real quick. I need to,
Jake,
because I didn't even
Jake.
mention that. Last week we had the Thursday night game between the Steelers and the Bengals, and he had both Aaron Rodgers and Pat Fryermuth, who both had big games, and they got him 58 combined points. And that man had them sitting on the bench. Who was his quarterback? Jordan Love, who got him half as many points as Aaron Rodgers. And who was his tight end? Trey McBride. Trey McBride did well.
Yeah,
Trey McBride got him 29. Trey McBride honestly had one of the best games of his career. He actually finished with 1 point higher than Pat Fryermuth. Still wouldn't have made a difference, though, because he still left Puka Nacua on his lineup, and he left Matt Prater in. So he still was too full of himself. So that wouldn't have made a difference.
So pride cometh before the fall.
Man. Exactly. Yes. You can never be too prideful in fantasy.
Nope.
I'm kind of taking a page out of Jake's book this week. I might be a little too prideful this week. I'm leaving, and I'm the one facing Joel this week. So I have the Seahawks defense. They are the number 1 ranked defense in the league, and I am not going to allow them to be available off of waivers. And so there's that. But I also think it would be very funny because I also am projected to beat Joel by quite a bit. So I'm feeling pretty confident in myself. I mean, I might be a little too proud, but I'm going to leave the Seahawks defense in and we'll see what happens.
Someone clip this. I was like, for when we come back and he loses this week, and we're going to call him accountable for this. Okay.
Absolutely. Yep. Just hold me accountable. I mean, I'm admitting right now, like I'm probably being too prideful, but you know what? I mean, it's any given Sunday, any given week in fantasy. And I mean, I need to get to 500. Like I probably am making a stupid decision, and there probably is a good defense out there that I can snatch, but I don't know. I think it would be very funny, man.
Right.
I want to see Joe in pain, in as much pain as you've given him.
Our lives are here to torture Joel. That's all we're here for.
Exactly. Yes, we love torturing our friend Joel in a good way. We don't literally torture him, just in the fun way.
Yep.
But anyways, thank you guys for tuning in to this edition of Fantasy Fumbles. If you have a story, if you want to get in on the action, send us your stories down below with the description. You can even send it in the comments if you feel free. And we will see you guys in the next episode. And feel free to subscribe. Click that like button. We love you guys. Later.